I am Sebastian, you are watching Venture Quest Academy, and today I'm launching a new format, a new type of startup tutorial here on this channel, which I call Strategy Masterclass. How did they do it? And first off, we will start by breaking down Tesla, how they went from being an insignificant sports car company to now being a vertically integrated behemoth that defines multiple different categories globally. Let's use the Venture Quest Academy game system to break down their strategy and how they accomplished that success. Tesla was founded in 2003, and 5 years later, in 2008, they began producing and delivering their first product, the Tesla Roadster, an electric sports car that was geared towards a very specific minimum viable audience. Namely affluent and often Californian people who did not mind buying like a fourth car to show off not just their wealth, but their environmental sensibilities as well. The car cost about $100,000 at the time, and I believe Leonardo DiCaprio was an early customer, for example. Now, the target need for this minimum viable audience was not transportation per se. It was, again, to show off how rich they were while also revealing that they were environmentally conscious. And there was no good way of doing that at the same time. At the time, you had to own both a Ford GTO and a Toyota Prius. And there was friction there was struggle, there was an unmet need. And the Tesla Roadster turned out to be the perfect solution for that audience, for that need. Now, at the time, Tesla was very much a startup company. They had very limited capabilities. The car body, the chassis of the Tesla Roadster, was actually taken from a wholly different car, an internal combustion engine car, the Lotus Elite. And then they bought general purpose batteries, like this one. And then they Frankensteined these components together in order to create something new. Now, I think most people would agree the Tesla Roadster was not a very great product, but it was good enough to achieve initial product-market fit for that minimum viable audience and that target need. And that enabled Tesla to level up and approach a new, much wider audience. Now, at this level, it was all about the Model S and to a lesser degree, the Model S. Gone was the Lotus Elite chassis. This time they had the capability to build the car from the ground up. And it also cost nearly half as much. The Model S starting price was $57,000 in 2012 when that was released. And Tesla now started to truly expand. They established their own first real factory in Fremont, California. And during this era, they also created a joint partnership with Panasonic to build the gigafactory dedicated to batteries in the Nevada desert. They invested what they got from the success with the Roadster to expand the capabilities to build much better cars at a lower price for a wider audience. An audience that was not quite the same as the first. The Tesla Model X or S was not necessarily the third or fourth car for the super rich. It was geared as being the primary car for still affluent, only less extremely so people who wanted to, of course, show off their wealth, but also show off, again, environmental consciousness, but also tech savviness, early adopterhood. These were the kind of people that walked around with Google Glass back when that was a thing. You remember Google Glass? Anyway, in order to earn the trust and money of this audience, Tesla, through these new products, had to fulfill new target needs. This audience wanted to go on long road trips to show off their cool products and environmental sensibilities and all the rest. So the car needed to have a long range, convenient and fast charging, be practical, comfortable to drive, and had lots of cargo space. And also, ideally, to have an Apple-esque user experience. That would appeal a lot to this audience. And the Tesla Roadster had absolutely none of these qualities. So the Model S and X had to be built from the ground up to meet these new target needs. Tesla had to innovate a driving experience that was akin to driving a Mercedes, only electric. And they had to engineer a whole new custom charging technology. And then they had to, at enormous effort and expense, build this entire infrastructure of charging stations on their own, with their own money, along the routes that their audience wanted to go on those road trips. And at the time, that was much ridiculed by other incumbent car companies as an expensive folly. As it turned out to be a very strategic asset, as Tesla charging to this day is the world standard. And it also creates a moat, retaining customers within the Tesla family, as switching simply means you have worse charging. And last but certainly not the least, it meant that Tesla had to grow the capability to be the best car company in the world at developing their own software in order to make this user experience come together. And that would come in handy later for autonomous driving. The Tesla Model S and X were successful, and that enabled Tesla to level up again. And now we reach the era of the Model 3 and the Model Y, who came out in 2017 and 2020, respectively. These cars were built to be much more affordable, although I believe they never quite reached the promised starting price of $35,000. They were still much more affordable than both the S and the X, and they were targeted towards a wider audience, a new audience. That, of course, are still fairly affluent, but much less so, and middle class, if you will. And the target needs now become ever more strict, because now Tesla is delivering practical cars that directly compete with internal combustion engine cars for customers who have very practical needs. The driving range needs to be very long, and the charging needs to be fast and convenient. The cars need to be efficient in terms of cost, where whilst people might be able to buy an expensive car, they still want it to not be expensive to run. So the cost per mile or kilometer must be very low. And also the car needs to be more practical, easy to park, easy to use in daily life, much more so than ever the S or X. So all of these things required Tesla to, again, grow new capabilities, because they needed to develop better products that could meet these needs, whilst also continuing to lower the prices of this product, which has been a core part of Tesla's strategy from the get-go. And in order to do that, they had to invest enormous effort and vast sums of money into growing its volume production, making sure that they were able to produce more and more vehicles so that they could achieve economies of scale, where things get cheaper the more you do them. So they did that, and that is when we saw the second gigafactory, this time in Shanghai, China, being built at record speed in accordance with Tesla's own design. That was followed by another gigafactory in Austin, Texas, and in Berlin, Germany. And this is when Tesla achieved what I like to call a superpower capability. In their case, vertical integration. This has been a very central tactic for Tesla from, as far as I can tell, the very beginning, whereas it is something that most other car companies today have long abandoned. Vertical integration means that you strive very actively to own, to design, and to control as many parts of the car manufacturing process as possible, so that you can optimize along many more verticals than most other competitors. These days, for example, the bodies of the Tesla cars, the chassis, are stamped out of only a couple of components, as opposed to being welded together from hundreds of different components. They've invested a lot of innovation with a lot of different partners in order to do that, in order to make that part of manufacturing more efficient. They have designed their own battery chemistry and have built and are building manufacturing plants to produce these batteries at an enormous scale. And this translates, of course, that you can optimize performance with much higher fidelity, which in turn translates into longer driving range, into a lower price per car, and to higher profit margins. And that means that Tesla has now leveled up to the present day. And at the time of recording, Tesla, the company, is worth about $815 billion US, and the stock price is currently $260 US. It has been a bumpy ride, but for example, we are now at the point in time where the Tesla semi-truck, this huge truck, entering into a market with a whole new audience of truck companies. And right now we're in the beginning stages of the much awaited, much delayed Cybertruck production, which will put Tesla into contact with the pickup truck audience. And I hear there are 2 million pre-orders waiting to buy this new vehicle from Tesla. It's a very provocative design. We shall see how it goes. And I haven't even mentioned the stationary energy storage products, the solar power products, the autonomous driving, or the humanoid robots. There is a new gigafactory being built in Mexico that is dedicated to the new vehicle platform, the Model 2, the people's car, that one Tesla that will be affordable. So once you have a superpower capability, such as vertical integration, there is a lot you can do. Now, this has been a very quick strategy masterclass. Tesla started with a very minimum viable audience that had an unmet need, a need that they were able to fulfill with a very initial product. That success enabled them to grow their capabilities, allowing them to deploy ever more advanced tactics in order to fulfill their ultimate goal, which in Tesla's case is to make all transportation in the world electric. That's the real lesson here. That is why the Tesla strategy is a winning one. They have a very ambitious but a very clear ultimate goal that they actually use to make long-term decisions every day, and that everyone in the company can measure their own efforts against. That is how you win in the long term. Now, my question to you is, should we continue this masterclass with a focus on Tesla? Should we, for instance, create a scenario where we ask ourselves the question, what could Mercedes, BMW, Ford, General Motors have done back in, say, 2012 when Tesla's dominance was not as clear? Or should we make it more practical and ask what the same companies or Volkswagen could do right now when it is quite apparent that Tesla is in the lead? Or should we switch focus to another company, to another industry, and explore that from a wholly new angle? You decide in the comments where we do our next strategy masterclass. I am Sebastian. You've been watching Venture Quest Academy. Make sure you are subscribed and that you hit the bell notification so that you don't miss any future startup tutorials. And if you feel so inclined, do give this video a like, as it helps YouTube know that it should recommend these videos to other new members of our growing strategy community. The game has only just begun. I'll see you next time.